looking at culture a little bit, so Alfred Kinsey is considered to be the father of the sexual revolution. So we're going to learn a little bit about him. Alright, so on this one, those reports, the true story of Alfred Kinsey, those reports immediately made the New York Times bestseller list. His research was very much not without its critics. Hold on. This one. Alright, so we're going to start here. This is a table that was taken from Kinsey's Sexual Behavior and the Human Male. The chart shows the average stimulation of children as young as 5 months. This being sexual stimulation. Although Kinsey has often been hailed as the father of the sexual revolution, it was not just religious voices who sought to defame him. Statisticians have pointed out that these subjects were not representative of the population at large, and leaned towards people who were sexually active and adventurous. In other words, Kinsey's research was in part biased. Kinsey himself was certainly biased in favor of sexual activity, having once declared there are only 3 kinds of sexual abnormalities: abstinence, celibacy, and delayed marriage. But how professional Kinsey was throughout his research is often brought to question. He allegedly encouraged his research associates to engage in sexual activity with each other and pressured students and team members alike to engage in that activity with him. Kinsey's assistant, Clyde Martin, even engaged in a sexual relationship with his wife. Kinsey kept recorded video and image evidence of sexual intercourse between subjects, assistants, and friends. Some of these he even participated in. He collected erotica from around the world, which was deemed illegal by the U.S. Customs Service. In a sort of way, he was ruthless, one biographer of Kinsey, Jonathan Gathorne Hardy, speculated. And one could almost go as far as to say immoral, at least not conventionally moral. If someone had sexual information that was germane, Kinsey would use it. Indeed, Kinsey went so far as to research sexual simulation in children as young as 5 months old. One of the subjects he interviewed for Sexual Behavior in the Human Male was a 63-year-old pedophile named Rex King, who had attempted to bring to orgasm boys between the ages of 2 months and 15 years. It only recently emerged that this data around sexuality in children came from one single man in Kinsey's research, rather than from the several that Kinsey had initially claimed. Okay, there's more to that one, of course, but we're going to move on. All right, I'm going to bump this up a little bit. All right, from Ignatius Insight. He is a man who recruited, wooed, and solicited pedophiles, not pedophiles in prison, but pedophiles out of prison, to find children and to sexually torture them. Judith Reisman, Ph.D. and author of Kinsey, Crimes and Consequences. It's all true. He hired people to abuse children on the record and record their findings. It was unbelievable. Charles Rice, law professor, University of Notre Dame, and author of 50 Questions on Natural Law. Alfred Kinsey was one seriously disgusting, disturbed guy. The father of the modern sexual revolution and the author of the acclaimed 1948 study of male sexuality and a 1953 study on female sexuality, was a sadomasochistic bisexual. But perhaps the worst thing about him was his celebration of the sexual abuse of children, including infants as young as 2 months old. On a larger scale, he wreaked havoc on post-World War II America. He promoted a way of life based on false data that was aimed at and succeeded in undermining the Judeo-Christian moral foundation of the American legal system. He is the godfather of the whole movement to liberalize laws in this area. The changes of the laws that came out were the results of Kinsey's investigations, says Charles Rice, law professor of the University of Notre Dame and author of 50 Questions on Natural Law. Yet a new movie is being made starring the charismatic Liam Neeson, and a Kinsey bioflick is currently airing on the arts and entertainment networks. Another one is in the works for PBS's The American Experience, scheduled for February 2005 broadcast. I didn't have any hesitation when offered the role, Neeson told the New York Times. He saw a gap in our human knowledge that he wanted to fill, the actor opined. He was driven to investigate it. I admire that extraordinary work ethic. This despite Kinsey writing that he rejoiced at receiving data on the abuse of a 2-month-old infant from a sex abuser. And a little bit more. April 2014, the Reisman Institute. Mid-20th century professor of entomology and zoology Alfred Kinsey, Ph.D., engaged in a study on the sexual behavior of humans at the Indiana University. It was designed to systematically document the sexual interests of the average American during and after World War II. In the 1940s and 50s, Kinsey surveyed 18,000 middle-class Caucasians. 65 years later, his 2 books representing the Kinsey reports have been translated into 30 languages. Exposed as a concealed pervert homosexist, Kinsey focused on the science fraud to further social engineering. His agenda was not gathering genuine data on the sexual behavior of average American men and women. His 2 groundbreaking books focused on deviant, aberrant human sexual behavior. The general public still continues Alfred Kinsey as the father of the sexual revolution, who has substantially changed civilization, the inventor of the human sexuality field, crystallizing a formal sex science, sexology, and the brain behind the institutionalized, hypersexualizing sex education movement in the Western world. As a youth, Kinsey was an Eagle Scout, a very pious Christian, a Sunday school teacher. He was a shy, sexually repressed loner crippled by guilt feelings who had his first homosexual experience at age 8. Kinsey has been exposed and discredited as an exhibitionist, voyeuristic, sexually deviant man, a moral relativist, eugenicist, racist, misogynist, bully, and atheist, a sadomasochistic, pedophilic, homo-bisexual psychopath, a promiscuous adulterer, an advocate of bestiality, a compulsive masturbator, a pornography addict, a sex addict who repeatedly self-mutilated his sex organs, an American Mengele who ordered, financed, concealed, and supposedly committed child sex abuse himself, a criminal who used the mandatory sexual histories and pornographic material to bribe and blackmail his colleagues, subjects, and funders, a man who ordered sexual torture of at least 317 or up to 2,035 infants and minors in the name of science, a lousy Darwinist referring to the human animal a par with gal wasps, an ideologically biased scientist who manipulated statistics and falsified his research data, and a concealer of his criminally obtained pseudoscience for the purpose of social engineering society at large. So this is the man that is accredited with being the father of the sexual revolution. Yay for us. And as you saw in this, as part of our sexual education in Western culture. Okay, so a little bit more, just kind of looking culturally. Okay, this article. Could your taste for teen porn land you in legal trouble? By The Conversation. January of 2016. I mean, really, when you have a title like that, where are we going with this? All right, Pornhub, the biggest pornography website in the world, has published its 2015 statistics revealing the word teen as a consistent feature in its most popular search terms. Worldwide figures show the term has been knocked from the top by the word lesbian, but remains the second most searched for term globally. It is the fourth most searched for term in the US and the UK, where most Pornhub users are based. It also features in the top 5 most searched for terms in Canada, Germany, Italy, Brazil, Mexico, Russia, and many other countries. The use of the term teen is sufficiently broad that it could include images that are legally understood to be of child abuse, but also ones that are perfectly legal images of young adults. This raises a delicate question. Could searching for teen porn get people into legal trouble? On legitimate porn sites, teen is generally used to refer to legal teen pornography, so pornography featuring performers aged 18, 19, or older who can pass for teenagers. This would be entirely legal to view, but although the age of consent in a given country may be lower than 18, this doesn't necessarily mean that this is the same when it comes to viewing porn. What about the question of why people are desiring to see pornography of those who even appear as teens, even if they aren't legally teens, or even if they are of majority? I think that's the question that we need to be considering and asking. Okay, so almost done. The FBI, there's this FBI document that came out. A lot of people have seen this, but it kind of runs down some of the symbols that pedophiles use to communicate with one another. So you've got boy lover, little boy lover, girl lover, child lover, child love online media activism. Yay. Okay, so I bring that up because a lot of these things are in open sight, and you can see them in a lot of our cultural and pop culture things like videos, and I will use an example. Voodoo Donuts. I don't know if everyone has heard of that, but Voodoo Donuts is a pretty famous donut shop. Started in Portland. They've got a couple of locations in Portland, and this is one of the locations. This is their sign. So it's got Voodoo Donut. The magic is in the hole, and right there, one of those symbols that indicates, what was it? I think that one is little boy love. Let's go back here and see. Yeah, little boy lover. If you go onto their website and look at their donut names, they have pictures of their donuts and the names and descriptions. I mean, I wouldn't say that they go straight to pedophilia, but definitely pushing the boundaries in regard to, sexuality and just sexual references, I guess. Okay. Lastly, so this was a couple weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it was, a month ago at the, I think it was the Emmys. And Jonathan Van Ness, so one of the Queer Eye for the Straight Guy stars, came out recently as a proud HIV positive, a proud member of the HIV positive community. Why do we need to be proud about this? It's twisted. It's not a positive thing. Being sick is not positive. Just because there have been medical advancements to curb HIV developing into AIDS and death being the ultimate price, doesn't mean that it's something to be proud of. Doesn't mean that it's a good thing. But again, this is everywhere in our culture, and it's well, as you saw, Alfred Kinsey was working back in the 40s and 50s, and this has been decades upon decades.